Big game. Let's get stuck in. First things first, Chelsea 2-1 against Liverpool. They are through to the FA Cup final thanks to Aggie Beever-Jones' stoppage time header. Rach, you were obviously at the game. Did you think it was going to go to extra time, or did you actually think Chelsea were just going to flip it and pull it out the bag in their jammy little ways again?
Yeah, no, I didn't think it was going to go to extra time. I've been to a couple of games at Chelsea this season as floor manager, and before the end of the game I have to tell the match manager what players I want to interview, and a couple of times they'll be like, come on, I need to know, and I'll say, it's not over yet. I know it's a draw right now, but it's not over. Just wait.
Like
just
the
wait.
wise wizard of the WSL.
It's just, you just know. So I sat there, like, initially in my head I was like, oh yeah, this goes to extra time, but I mean, it's grand. So no, I didn't think it was going to go to extra time. I'm glad it didn't, because poor Sophie was writing a match report and it's hard enough when there is an injury time goal, never mind when it goes to extra time. So I'm glad it was all wrapped up in the 90 minutes or 98 minutes I think it was in the end. But no, you just kind of knew it was going to happen, didn't you?
Well, I think it's like the inevitability of Chelsea kind of finding something from what it's one of those games that could have easily gone each way, but it always feels like Chelsea have that upper hand in terms of they keep a cool, calm head, and they are very collected in those kind of moments that put a lot of pressure on the situation. I mean, this was the 8th time since January that Chelsea had come from behind to find a late winner. So,
wow.
In terms of their what they do, I mean, yeah, it's not actually surprising that this happened. Obviously, ABJ now is Chelsea's top scorer this season with 11 goals now in all competitions. But we've got to talk about Olivia Smith open up the scoreline in this game. 21 minutes in, beautiful assist from Mary Hobinger. I mean, what did you think of Liverpool's start?
I actually thought they controlled the first half quite well. I thought they controlled Chelsea's pressure quite well, limiting clear chances. I think Chelsea's goal was their first shot on target, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it was.
But I think what makes Olivia Smith so impressive, I know we've talked about her before, but I think something that's really grown as she's, gotten more and more minutes in the WSL is that the chances she gets, she turns into goals or shots on target. And for a team like Liverpool, that's often that's the hardest part, is when you get a rare moment against one of the top 4 to actually turn it into something. And they've become very, very good at doing that. They transition very quickly, and she's so lethal, and she absolutely backs herself. And I think she's one of those forwards that puts the frighteners up defensive lines, and when you see her running at you, I can't even imagine. For you as a goalkeeper, I can't imagine what it would be like to see someone like Olivia Smith bearing down on goal, because you just have no idea where she's going to put the ball.
There's a reason I quit, Rach. I felt it was the right time. And when you see the level of talent now coming through, I mean, she was kind of one of those, I mean, obviously she came over to Liverpool last summer, biggest transfer fee they've ever had. And there was obviously a big expectation on her shoulders. Really looking forward to sort of seeing her back onto the international stage. I know she missed out on Paris, but it feels like she's now really found her feet and she's enjoying her football. And you're completely right. In those high pressure moments, it's not, I don't think she feels pressure. She just looks like she's enjoying football. And the conversion rate when she gets the ball is absolutely incredible. I think, for me, in terms of the first 20 minutes for Liverpool, I felt it was a very clever game strategy. They kind of sucked up the pressure and then hit Chelsea straight on the counter. And I think that kind of moment of partnership there between Hobinger and Smith, it kind of felt like they've been playing together for, decades. Hobinger just knew the run, the curvature of the run, the delay on the run, like it just felt like the whole thing had been put together in this beautiful plan. So, and I think it was really, really beautiful actually after the goal went in, because obviously it was just by that beautiful sea of red by the Chelsea goal. It was, they exploded.
I got a great shot of that. I got a shot of Leanne Kiernan just disappearing over the barrier, like you could just see her legs, and there was just this crowd of fans, and then I have a shot of her kind of sitting there like this in the stands with the fans. So yeah, and there's some love. I got some nice shots of like Taylor Hines like fist pump, Olivia Smith a bit of this, and then just sea of red. There's a guy with a scarf behind, like just one of those nice scenes. It was a really cool celebration.
It was gorgeous, and I think that you could obviously tell how much it meant to them, and it was a very well-deserved goal. But Erin Cuthbert obviously equalised just before the break. Like you said, Rach, this was their first shot on target. Chelsea did look quite dangerous in the second half, and obviously it was ABJ who found the winner in the 94th. But do we feel that Chelsea I know we kind of expected that they would get that maybe last-minute goal, that last minute winner. But do we actually feel that they deserved that, or do we actually feel this is quite an unfair result for Liverpool?
No, I do think Chelsea deserved it, especially based on the second half. I think they were much more dominant in the second half, creating more chances. And I thought the change that Liverpool made, where they took Olivia Smith off and I think then went to a back three, almost as if they were preparing for extra time, I think. And I just wonder if Amber Whiteley had the option to do it again, would she leave Olivia Smith on for the full normal time? And if they went to extra time, then maybe take her off, because I just think that switch might have kind of been the trigger that just allowed Chelsea to kind of pile more pressure on. And I appreciate it might have been a bit of managing minutes, might have been a bit of being more defensive, but it just felt they sat deeper and deeper and deeper, and that just allows more and more of Chelsea's squad. It may seem like the right idea to defend deep, but it just allows more and more of Chelsea's squad to kind of pile on the pressure. So I do wonder if that was kind of this switch then where Chelsea thought, okay, we're going to get in here. But I do think they deserved, especially on the balance in the second half, to come out on top.
I think you're completely right. I do feel there was a tenacity in Chelsea that I do think on balance maybe that was a fair-ish result, but I think it was one of those games that could have gone each way. And I think the Cuthbert goal before half-time was kind of not the nail in the coffin, but it was kind of like, oh, really? Now we're on equal footing again.
The timings of the goals.
It's that, and they're going to go into the half-time. There's going to be a really rousing talk from Sonia Bonpasta about how they can pull this back and how they're, there's so many things on the line this season with them being in for the quadruple. And I just felt like if that hadn't have happened, it could have been a completely different game, or had some of the chances that Liverpool had and converted, had Hobinger had a really good chance as double lead in the first half. Had that happened, maybe it could have been a completely different game. But
Taylor Hines at the end.
I mean, but I did feel there was a tenacity to Chelsea. I mean, I've got a shout out to Sandy Baltimore. Thought she put in an absolute shit. She was such like a scrappy, annoying player, just creating chances out of like relatively dead situations. I mean, the way that even the Cuthbert ball came across, it was like she kind of lost the ball a little bit, but then Ramirez kind of get it back into play.
That
and then
moment, Cuthbert, like that should have been, that should have been a moment where Liverpool cleared their lines and Ramirez was like, nah, I'm not letting this go.
I think it was a doggedness to it, and I felt sorry for Rachel Laws actually, because I felt like she could have probably done a little bit better with that one, but it was so bouncy and there were so many different things happening and loads of bodies in the box as well, so yeah, difficult one. But I think that was the pivotal moment in terms of them getting back into the game. And then obviously Sandy Baltimore providing that assist for ABJ. I think she was just integral for me in terms of like just how much she wanted it. I think she was the player that to me wanted it the most. And I think the ABJ goal, I mean, the red side obviously went crazy for Smith's goal, but ABJ's goal sent the whole of the stadium in absolute bits. I mean, what was the atmosphere like when that went in so late in the day?
Exploded, and even better with like the celebrations as well. I love that. I wasn't down that end typically, but I do love this to see that the celebrations and the fans and stuff was great. And then Millie Bright walked down the pitch giving it all this, like, so yeah, it was like you're in, it's a small ground, so you're just really surrounded by that noise.
It was absolutely, I mean, I obviously watched it on TV, but I think it was just like, and the sun was out and it just felt like one of those really like beautiful moments for them. Chelsea have only dropped points in 4 league games this season. 3 of those were in March. Sonia Bonpastor said she wanted to see the best version of her players on their return from the international break. Rach, do we think we've seen that, or do we think we've seen a Chelsea that's sort of not fully firing on all cylinders, and understandably so given how rapid the schedule is coming at things now?
Yeah, I think it's a lot to ask to expect players to come back in tip-top form after international break, and I don't think that was Chelsea's best performance. And it doesn't matter if they're still winning games, because there's so much more than just playing wonderful football that wins you games, which Chelsea are proving. And we've seen it at times. We saw it against Manchester City in the Champions League in the second leg, where we know they have it in their locker when they absolutely need it, and they can play at that kind of rapid, frightening football. We haven't seen it all that much this season, but that's quite frightening as well, is the fact that they're not even reaching their top and they're still finding ways to win. And it just kind of shows the importance of that mentality, that resilience, that ruthlessness is what gets you over the line. Because it also shows you that it's really bloody hard to play that level of football consistently every single week, no matter what quality of players you have on the pitch. So No, I don't think it was their best, but it doesn't matter. They're winning, and that's the main thing. And I think it's always interesting how teams come back off the international break, and sometimes you just need to get the wins. It doesn't matter how you get them; you just need to get them. And I think, as you said, that timing of the goal and the halftime talk, that was the real shift as well, because that's the kind of fuel that Chelsea can use going into a second half. It's a clean slate now. Go again, and you definitely saw that.
It's an unusual one because obviously they've got the win, but obviously there will be, because the standards at Chelsea are so incredibly high and the expectations around the squad are so high, that people obviously are going to say, well, 24 shots, only 4 on target despite 54 touches in Liverpool's box. Like that's not good enough. They still got the win, but it's not a good enough win in a way. Yeah. But at the same time, I think, like you were saying there, it is absolutely frightening, the quality of the talent that she has on the pitch and obviously on the bench. I mean, she's obviously able to benefit from the squad rotation there. She made 6 changes from the draw with West Ham. But it kind of feels like a Chelsea that it doesn't matter if they're at kind of 85 or 90% each match, they still have enough to get them through. And I'm a little bit worried that the quadruple is going to happen this year. I'm not going to lie, Rach.
I think as well, it's just because she's able to rotate, because they've got such good squad depth. You just add that into, there's always going to be little moments in games where that fluidity might not quite be there, because maybe that particular set of players haven't played loads and loads of minutes with each other yet. So that's another thing you have to factor in. It's something that they're able to manage, because I think they've got quite a lot of experience to be able to manage those situations.
Definitely. Well, let's touch a little bit on Liverpool before we jump into the absolutely massive Manchester derby. What do we think was their sort of biggest problem in the second half? I mean, if Liverpool had won this game, it would have been their first FA Cup final since 1996. I mean, what a historic moment that would have been, especially for Amber coming in so fresh.
I think what we've seen from other teams that have played Chelsea is trying to sit on a 1-goal lead.
Doesn't work.
It doesn't work, and I appreciate it was 1-1, but it just felt a bit like Liverpool would have been happy with extra time. Now, not that I'm not sure why, but arguably Chelsea have a deeper squad and would have managed that better. But it just did feel a little bit like they were, as long as the second half went on, the longer it went on, the more they sat back, and then they made that change. So it's just such a dangerous thing to do against Chelsea. And we've seen, again, teams, and very rarely are teams able to just handle that wave after wave of attack. I think back to your Aston Villas at the beginning of the season. Everton tried to do it, or even like last season, I think it was, when Manchester City won 1-0 at Kings Meadow, and they scored a goal relatively early in the first half and then just tried to absorb the pressure. And to be fair, they did manage to, but it's a very difficult thing to do. So I think that was probably being just that bit too defensive, and I understand why you feel you need to be like that against Chelsea, but with a player like Olivia Smith and the ability to transition quickly and for teammates to find her really well, I just think trying to sit back was probably their downfall.
I think it's that, and there's also just no room for complacency. And I think you don't need to sit back when you should be full of confidence. I mean, the most vulnerable a team is ever going to be is after they've conceded a goal. So it kind of makes sense to keep pressing and try and get that second one, which would have given them so much more breathing space. And it, like I said before, I think, had Hobinger or had Taylor kind of, had they taken some of those chances earlier on in the first half, it could have been a completely different feeling to the game. But obviously a little bit of unfortunate news too there with their 17-year-old Liverpool midfielder Zara Shaw being unavailable for the game after sustaining an ACL injury whilst on international duty with the England under-19s. Unfortunately, this is the second time she suffered an ACL injury. I think, how many times do we have these conversations? We keep seeing it day in, day out, most weeks.
She's so young though, to have 2 at that age is...
Absolutely. Yeah. That's a huge blow. And from everyone here at Upfront, wishing you an absolutely speedy recovery.
Safe recovery.
A safe recovery. And speedy recovery. Obviously now this does mean this big win for Chelsea, that they'll be facing Manchester United in the final after they beat Man City 2-0. We'll definitely obviously get into that game in a little while, but how good do we think Chelsea's quadruple hopes are now? For me, I'd say bloody good. I'm not going to beat around the bush here, but obviously this win was helpful. For obvious reasons.
With every win, the chances of a quadruple look better, right? So, domestically, the domestic treble, I feel, looks really, really good. I just think Champions League is such a difficult one to predict. especially against Barcelona. I think this is probably their best chance to do it. I thought last year that was their best chance to do it, and they'd had the best squad in the time that they've been doing it to do it. I think maybe actually with Pernilla Harder, and that year was a great opportunity as well. But I feel like each year that they go into the Champions League, they look better and better and more equipped and more prepared to deal with it. But it's Barcelona, so I feel like that one makes it really difficult to call. I'm really excited for the game, but domestically, I do think they're probably going to wrap up everything over here in England.
I think I've got to say, I think I'm very much on the fence about the Champions League. I'm a little bit on the fence about the FA Cup, and I think I'll probably get onto that after we talked about the Man United Man City game. But I do think in terms of obviously the league, that feels very much like a done deal. I think that's almost a guarantee unless something absolutely wild and obscure happens. And obviously they've already picked up silverware, so yeah, 50% I think is a done deal. I'd say the other 50% still up in the air. Come on, let's add a little bit of jeopardy to things, for the love of God.